Baba Vanga's dark warning: which nations are most at risk in 2025? There are times in human history when ancient voices seem to rise from silence, when prophecies long buried begin to breathe again through the cracks of our modern world. In 2025, one of those voices calls out louder than ever: the voice of Baba Vanga. You've likely heard her name, the blind mystic of Bulgaria, wrapped in legend and uncertainty. For decades, her predictions have startled even the most skeptical minds, but few know that some of her most chilling warnings were meant for the very year we're living in. What if 2025 isn't just another year, but a crossroads? And what if some nations stand closer to the edge than others? In a time when climate shifts, political unrest and technological leaps leave us both amazed and anxious, could her visions offer more than superstition? Perhaps a mirror to our current path? Before we open the scroll of her insights, before we trace the clues she left behind, take a moment to support this journey. Like this video, share it with those who walk the path of seeking truth, and subscribe to the Journey of Wisdom. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. Because if her vision is unfolding now, it's not just the world that must prepare, it's us. Number 1. Information about Prophet Baba Vanga. To truly understand how inner calm opens the door to outer abundance, let us begin by exploring a figure who, in her own mysterious way, embodied this balance. Baba Vanga, the blind mystic of the Balkans. Born in 1911 in what is now North Macedonia, Baba Vanga experienced a life-altering event during her early childhood. A violent storm took away her physical sight, and yet from this profound loss, she claimed to have awakened to something far deeper, a spiritual vision, a heightened inner awareness that allowed her to perceive beyond the surface of the world. Her calm acceptance of her fate and the stillness with which she tuned into what she called the invisible forces of the universe offer us a striking lesson. In today's fast-paced world, where external noise often drowns out our inner voice, Baba Vanga's story reminds us that inner silence is not emptiness. It is a gateway to deeper understanding, perhaps even wisdom. She predicted global events with eerie accuracy: political assassinations, environmental shifts, even breakthroughs in science and space. Yet these were not simply curiosities. Her visions often carried a deeper call, urging humanity to awaken, to reflect, to realign with values greater than greed or division. One of her most cryptic messages concerned the year 2025. According to her followers, she foresaw a breaking point, a time when nations would be tested, when human society would be asked to face hard truths. Whether one believes in prophecy or not, what stands out here is the symbolic power of her message, that moments of global disruption reflect deeper imbalances within ourselves. Number 2. Baba Vanga's warning about 2025. 1. The North: floods and climate chaos. Let's begin with something that's both ancient and strikingly modern. Baba Vanga's warning about the North, a region she claimed would face catastrophic floods and climate chaos in the mid-2020s. You might be wondering, what did she mean by this? According to notes kept by those closest to her, she spoke of an invisible water dragon, a poetic yet chilling image that seems to echo what we now know through science. A rapidly melting polar ice cap and dangerous changes in global ocean patterns. While her language was mystical, today's evidence is disturbingly real. Scientists across the world are now sounding alarms about the weakening of a major ocean current system called the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, known as AMOC, which plays a crucial role in keeping the climate in balance, especially for nations in the Northern Hemisphere. This system is like a giant conveyor belt, carrying warm water from the tropics northward and cold water back south, but now it's slowing, and some say it may even collapse in our lifetime. If that happens, countries like the UK, the Netherlands, Germany, and much of Scandinavia could face sudden, severe climate shifts. Floods that wipe out entire neighborhoods, frigid winters that cut deep into agriculture, and even a breakdown in the natural rhythms we've come to rely on. Could this be the flood Baba foresaw? She spoke of water rising without mercy, of cities going silent, not from war, but from drowning. Think about this. How many of us live with the illusion that technology or wealth can shield us from nature? Baba's message breaks through that illusion, reminding us that no one is truly untouchable, not even the most advanced societies. And maybe that's what makes her warning so unsettling. It's not just about rising sea levels, it's about complacency. It's about how we've ignored the whispers of the earth for too long, and now the ocean may speak in waves instead. Northern Europe, often seen as a symbol of progress and stability, now finds itself under threat. Isn't it strange that the very places we think of as safe may actually be most at risk? And if we look deeper, beyond the headlines and forecasts, what do these signs ask of us? Are we ready to shift our mindset, to stop seeing climate change as a distant problem and begin treating it like the immediate danger it truly is? So the real question becomes, what can you do now while there's still time? This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. If you live in areas near coastlines, near rivers, or in cities that depend heavily on stable weather, have you prepared for the unknown? Have you questioned your government's infrastructure planning or your community's resilience strategies? Are you investing not just in insurance or property, but in knowledge, in adaptation, in collective action? Because Baba Vanga's warning isn't set in stone. It's a possibility, not a destiny. She saw patterns and echoes. We are the ones writing the ending. In the end, the value of Baba Vanga's dark warning lies not in superstition, but in reflection. Her message pushes us to look at our current path with honesty. It invites us to reconnect with nature, to recognize its power, and to act. Not out of panic, but out of wisdom. The flood she foresaw may be literal, but its lesson is spiritual. Nothing man-made lasts forever, and those who prepare not just their homes, but their hearts, will weather even the darkest storms. So I leave you with this. What will your legacy be when the waters rise? Will you be swept away by denial, or will you rise with awareness and purpose? If you're still watching, you're not just curious, you're searching for answers about the future. Baba Vanga's predictions for 2025 are more relevant than ever. Comment "Awake for 2025" if you're ready to stay aware and informed. Stick around. What's coming next might change how you see the world. 2. The East, silent control and digital domination. Let's explore one of Baba Vanga's most mysterious and unsettling predictions, what she called a silent threat rising from the East. While some thought she spoke of war, her words were far more nuanced. She didn't speak of bombs or armies, but of control without force, power that doesn't roar but whispers, The dragon smiles, but its tail is long and coiled, she reportedly said. A poetic yet chilling image. When you hear the dragon, what comes to mind? For many, especially in the context of global power dynamics, the symbol of the dragon is closely linked to China, and while that alone doesn't confirm her vision, it gives us a lens through which to view the rapid, quiet changes unfolding around us. In recent years, we've watched a dramatic expansion of China's digital reach through AI, surveillance infrastructure, digital currency systems, and strategic trade relationships that have reshaped the balance of power, not with guns, but with algorithms and influence. What's even more thought-provoking is how many countries, particularly in Africa, Southeast Asia, and parts of Europe, are becoming increasingly reliant on technology and economic lifelines that originate from systems they neither created nor fully understand. Could this be what Baba Vanga meant when she warned of invisible shackles? When she spoke of songs sung in languages never heard before, could she have been alluding to a kind of cultural and technological colonization? One that doesn't break walls, but quietly reshapes minds? As we look toward 2025, it's not difficult to see how this might unfold. Digital currencies are growing, and centralized systems of surveillance, facial recognition, citizen scoring, data tracking are becoming normalized. But here's the thing, this isn't about demonizing a country or a culture. It's about recognizing the direction of power and how quietly it moves. Many of us are living inside systems we no longer control, using devices built on foundations we never fully agreed to, and sharing data we barely understand. So I ask you, is freedom still what we think it is in a digital age? Or are we entering an era where control looks like convenience, where domination hides behind smooth interfaces and seamless access? The Buddha once said, "3 things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth." This might be the time to reflect deeply on what truths we are ignoring and what control we are accepting simply because it comes without resistance. Baba Vanga's prophecy, to me, feels less like a prediction and more like a mirror held up to our current path, a chance to ask ourselves whether the silence we hear is peace or simply the calm before a new kind of storm. From a Buddhist perspective, control, whether external or internal, is deeply tied to attachment. We cling to ease, to tools, to comfort, often without questioning the consequences. But the path of awakening asks us to stay aware. "He who knows others is wise," said Lao Tzu, "but he who knows himself is enlightened." So as we move deeper into this age of digital interdependence, how well do we truly know ourselves? And how much of that knowledge is filtered through systems that may not serve our well-being? Whether or not Baba Vanga's dragon is China, or something even larger like AI or global tech networks, the real lesson is this: never surrender your inner freedom to external ease. Be mindful of who shapes your thoughts, where your data flows, and what stories you're being told, not just in your newsfeed, but in the invisible architecture of your digital life. Because the most dangerous kind of control is the one that feels like nothing at all. So I leave you with this question. In a world of smiling dragons and silent influence, how will you stay awake? 3. The West, collapse and spiritual void. Now we turn our attention to the West, the so-called land of freedom, innovation, and influence, which Baba Vanga once described as the crumbling citadel, warning of a time when empires will forget their names. It's a haunting metaphor, one that speaks less of borders and more of identity, culture, and spiritual direction. For many who have grown up in or admired the strength of Western nations like the United States, this may sound extreme, but when we look around, we start to notice subtle and not so subtle signs that point toward a deep, collective unraveling. In 2025, the West faces more than just political gridlock or economic stress. It's in the grip of what feels like a moral and existential crisis. The widening gap between political ideologies, the erosion of trust in long-standing institutions, the spread of misinformation, and a loss of shared values have created what Baba described as a spiritual void spreading like a fog. This isn't just symbolic language. It reflects the reality many people feel every day. Disconnection, disillusionment, and a gnawing sense that something fundamental is being lost, not just economically, but within the human heart. Baba Vanga's vision of a mirror cracking in the West is especially poignant today. What does it mean to look into a mirror and see a fractured image? It may represent how fragmented public consciousness has become, where everyone sees different versions of truth, depending on what media they follow, what platforms they trust, or what fears they've internalized. This isn't about left or right. It's about how we, as a society, are slowly losing the ability to speak to one another with empathy and reason. More and more, people are retreating into echo chambers, abandoning nuance for certainty and trading dialogue for outrage. Could this be the shadow rising from the void, not of a person, but of a moment in history where moral clarity is replaced by moral confusion? Baba seemed to point not to one great villain, but to a deeper collapse in values, where truth becomes subjective and where people begin to turn inward, not for peace, but for escape. And in such a moment, we're left to ask, what holds a nation together if its people no longer believe in its soul? From a practical point of view, the West is also under serious economic pressure. The signs are plain: ballooning national debt, volatile housing markets, shrinking middle classes, and warnings of potential recession. As Baba said, gold will lose its shine and paper will whisper lies. A cryptic phrase that might refer to the instability of financial systems, the weakening of traditional currencies, and the public's declining faith in economic promises. When inflation rises and wages stay still, when people work harder but feel poorer, it's not just a financial issue, it becomes a spiritual one. People begin to question the fairness of the system, the purpose of their labor, and even the meaning of success. And here's where her message feels urgent. The collapse she foresaw may not just be of governments or banks, but of purpose and connection. So what does this mean for us, especially for those of us between 30 and 65, living through this period of uncertainty while trying to raise families, build careers, and hold on to hope? It means we must not only prepare materially, but awaken spiritually. In Buddhist thought, it is said, "All that we are is the result of what we have thought." If the outer world is in chaos, then the first place we must bring order is within. Baba's warning should not drive us to fear, but to clarity. The solution to a spiritual void is not more consumption, more distraction, or more division. It's community, compassion, mindfulness, and above all, responsibility for how we speak, how we act, and what kind of world we are shaping for those who come after us. So I ask you, from one human being to another, if the mirror of society is cracking, what reflection will you choose to restore? And when the gold no longer glitters, what will truly hold value in your life? 4. The Middle East, Fire Beneath the Sand. We've talked about the rising waters in the north, the silent grip of control from the east, and the spiritual unraveling in the west. But now we turn to a region that Baba Vanga described with the most potent imagery of all: a fire beneath the sand. At first glance, it may seem poetic or symbolic, but if we pause and look closer, her words carry an eerie weight. Many believe she was referring to the Middle East, a land of extremes, of ancient wisdom and present-day volatility, of sacred ground and smoldering tension. She also spoke of a crescent watching from the sky, blessing and cursing in the same breath, which many interpret as a reference to Islam, a faith that holds deep spiritual influence across the region. But her prophecy wasn't simply about religion or oil or borders. It hinted at something deeper, something that strikes at the heart of identity. As we enter 2025, the Middle East is standing at a critical crossroads. Water scarcity is reaching crisis levels in places like Iraq, Jordan, and even parts of Iran, turning rivers once seen as lifelines into sources of conflict. At the same time, technological innovation is blooming, from smart cities rising in the desert to new energy strategies aiming to move beyond oil dependence. But with innovation comes upheaval, especially in societies still holding tight to tradition. Baba Vanga's statement that the sands will choose between the old fire and the new dawn now feels more timely than ever. Could she have been warning us about a deeper spiritual conflict unfolding beneath the surface? A region grappling with a choice to evolve with a rapidly changing world, or to double down on historical ideologies that may no longer serve the needs of their people. In countries like Saudi Arabia, we already see signs of both: massive modernization efforts, alongside rising tension over personal freedoms and cultural shifts. Iran faces internal unrest and external pressure, while Israel remains caught in a storm of politics, identity, and conflict that refuses to settle. But beyond politics, this moment calls each of us to ask, what happens when a people or a nation is pulled between who they were and who they are trying to become? And what kind of fire does that inner conflict ignite, not just beneath the sand, but within the soul of a society? Her warning, then, is not about doom, but about decision. It's about the moral and cultural crossroads that many in the region and in the world are approaching. The Middle East has always been a birthplace of faith, of prophets, of sacred stories. Perhaps Baba Vanga saw that its future, too, will carry the weight of destiny. But in a time of rapid climate change, resource pressure, and global political shifts, will that destiny be shaped by fear or by wisdom? By clinging to the past, or by stepping into a new dawn with consciousness and courage? The Buddhist saying, "All conditioned things are impermanent," when one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering, reminds us that transformation, while painful, is natural and necessary. So, what lessons can we draw from Baba's vision of the Middle East? It teaches us to listen closely, not just to loud headlines, but to quiet changes beneath the surface. It reminds us that real danger isn't always fire from above. It's the slow, hidden flame that we choose to ignore until it's too late. And above all, it asks us, when the sands shift, what will we stand for? Old fire or new light? Thank you for watching today's video on Baba Vanga's dark warning and the countries that may face serious challenges in 2025. We're grateful to have you as part of this thoughtful and curious community. If you have any insights, questions, or personal reflections about what we covered, feel free to share them in the comments. If you're new here, just type "I am a seeker" so we can welcome you. And if you've been with us for a while, say "I stand with wisdom" to show your support. Your voice and engagement truly keep this channel growing and evolving. Let's keep exploring the unknown together. 5. Awakening Actions from Baba Vanga's Predictions. We've just journeyed through some of Baba Vanga's most haunting predictions. Visions of floods in the north, silent digital control from the east, spiritual collapse in the west, and fiery crossroads in the Middle East. But what do these warnings actually mean for you, the individual? Too often we hear these prophecies and think, "That's for world leaders to handle," or "That doesn't affect my everyday life." But Baba Vanga didn't just speak to governments, she spoke to the soul of humanity. And now, in 2025, when the world feels uncertain and the future hangs in delicate balance, it's clear. The time has come to look inward, because real change doesn't begin in policy, it begins in personal awareness. So let's explore what these global warnings ask of you. Not just in thought, but in action. Let's look at how to transform fear into wisdom, passivity into purpose, and prophecy into preparation. Number 1. Strengthen your inner calm amid external chaos. Strengthen your inner calm amid external chaos. A lesson not only echoed in the life of Baba Vanga, who, despite living in darkness, silence, and deep personal loss, radiated a rare clarity and strength, but also deeply rooted in Buddhist teachings. Baba Vanga's blindness did not limit her vision, but instead sharpened her insight, teaching us that clarity does not come from what we see, but from how we perceive and respond within. This mirrors the Buddhist principle of upekkha, or equanimity, which is the calm in the storm, the space between reaction and response. As the world becomes increasingly noisy, filled with uncertainty, fear-driven news, and overwhelming responsibilities, it's easy to be swept up by external chaos. But, as the Buddha said, you will not be punished for your anger, you will be punished by your anger. That punishment often comes as anxiety, regret, and confusion. To walk the path of awakening, we must first reclaim our inner ground. So ask yourself gently, not in judgment but in inquiry, how do I react to fear, to not knowing what comes next? Instead of trying to control the uncontrollable, begin small but powerful practices that bring you back to your center. Daily meditation, mindful breathing while walking, or even writing down your thoughts each morning to release mental noise. Like Baba Vanga, who turned inward to hear what the outer world could not teach, we too must learn to sit with ourselves in stillness. In a world obsessed with speed, rest becomes rebellion, and inner peace becomes power. This calm is not weakness, it's clarity in action. When you are grounded, your decisions are no longer reactive, but rooted in wisdom. As Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "Feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor." Use your breath as your lighthouse. Whether you are facing financial stress, relationship tension, or simply the overwhelm of modern life, remember, storms are external, but your peace can be internal. And from that peace, your most courageous and wise actions will arise. The more you practice this inner calm, the more you will notice a subtle shift, not in the world, but in your experience of it. The noise won't stop, but it will lose its power to control you. And that, truly, is the first awakening. The discovery that your calm is your compass, your clarity, and ultimately your strength. Number 2. Escape TAC control. Let's talk about something that affects every one of us, whether we notice it or not. The illusion of control created by technology. Baba Vanga, known for her mysterious insights into the future, once warned of control without force. These words may sound cryptic at first, but when you look around today at how we live, think, and even feel, you'll realize she may have been describing the silent influence of the digital age. Her message wasn't just about political or global surveillance. It went deeper. It was a wake-up call to recognize the subtle ways in which technology shapes our decisions, our time, and even our inner peace. This isn't about being anti-technology. It's about waking up to how it can become a cage disguised as convenience. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you picked up your phone just to check the time and ended up scrolling for 30 minutes? You're not alone. The tools we use to stay connected are often the same tools that distract us from our own lives. There's a story that comes from the Zen tradition about a student who asked his master, "How do I become free?" The master quietly took a length of rope and tied it around the student's wrists. Then he said, "Free yourself." The student struggled, pulled, and tried to loosen the knot, but couldn't. Finally, he looked up and asked, "How?" The master replied, "You tied yourself. You must learn how to untie yourself." The wisdom here is timeless. We often unknowingly tie ourselves to things, habits, devices, desires, and then wonder why we feel trapped. Technology can be that rope. We think we're using it, but slowly it begins to use us. Have you ever noticed how much of your day is guided not by your intention, but by notifications, algorithms, and autoplay features? This is the invisible chain Baba Vanga pointed to, a psychological conditioning where our thoughts, emotions, and even choices are nudged by systems designed to keep us engaged, often at the cost of our clarity and peace. So, what does it mean to break free from this illusion of control? It starts with awareness. Take a day and track how often you reach for your phone, how much of your information comes from curated feeds, how much time you lose to screens that never seem to give back what they take. Then start taking small steps. Turn off non-essential notifications. Create spaces in your day where no devices are allowed. Choose books over news feeds. And most importantly, listen to your own inner voice more than the digital noise. This isn't about escaping the world. It's about reclaiming your inner world. The question isn't whether we should use technology, but rather, are we awake while using it, or are we sleepwalking through our digital lives? The more we unplug with intention, the more clearly we can see what truly matters. Baba Vanga's vision reminds us that the future is not only shaped by machines or leaders, but by our daily choices, by how we respond to the quiet war for our attention. So ask yourself now, in what small way can you reclaim control today? Maybe it's a quiet walk without your phone, or a meal enjoyed fully present. Maybe it's choosing to meditate instead of scrolling. Every conscious act is a thread pulled loose from the knot. Freedom begins not in rebellion, but in awareness. The lesson is clear. Technology is a tool, not a master. Don't let convenience become captivity. Learn to pause, curate your digital life, choose awareness over automation. In this fast-paced world, your presence is your power, and it's time to return to it. Number 3. Rebuild spiritual connection in a world of division. Have you ever looked around and felt like something essential is missing? Not in the news, not in your job, not in your relationships, but deep within you? Baba Vanga, the mystic many believe had a rare window into the future, once spoke of a great spiritual drought spreading across the modern world. According to her, this wasn't just about the crumbling of governments or rising conflicts in the West. No, it was something much deeper. A kind of quiet collapse happening within the human heart. She foresaw a time when people would be surrounded by comfort, opportunity, and information, yet feel more disconnected than ever before. And if you pause for a moment and feel into the world around us today, maybe you'll recognize what she meant. So many chase after success, wealth, social status, or external validation, but end up feeling hollow, anxious, or unsure of their deeper purpose. Have you ever had that feeling where you accomplish something but still feel strangely empty inside? Baba Vanga's message wasn't one of fear, it was a wake-up call. A gentle, urgent whisper to remind us, we are not just minds and bodies, we are spirits too. And when the spirit is ignored, life loses its balance. So what's the answer to this spiritual dryness? It isn't found in doing more or having more, it's found in aligning more deeply with who we truly are. That begins with a return to our values. Ask yourself right now, what truly matters to me? Not what the world says should matter, but what my heart keeps pointing me toward when everything else quiets down. Are you living in a way that honors those values? Or are you drifting, letting the noise of the world drown out the voice within? Rebuilding spiritual connection means stepping back from the constant pressure to achieve and stepping into the simple practice of being. It means nourishing your spirit through daily acts of compassion, speaking kindly, helping someone without expecting anything back, being honest when it would be easier to pretend. The Buddha said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." This isn't just a quote for a meditation poster. It's a living truth. When you start bringing awareness to how you think, how you treat others, how you treat yourself, you begin to wake up. And that's the real revolution Baba Vanga may have been pointing to, not one that takes place in politics, but one that happens inside each of us. So, how do we begin? It could be as simple as starting your day with a few moments of silence, offering a kind word to someone you usually ignore, or forgiving yourself for something you've been carrying too long. Spiritual reconnection isn't a grand achievement. It's 1,000 small acts of love and truth, stitched together across your days. And even when the world feels divided or chaotic, your inner world doesn't have to be. You have the power right now to choose connection over isolation, depth over distraction, and love over fear. Let me ask you, when was the last time you truly felt connected? Not just to someone else, but to your own soul. What would it look like if you started living each day with the quiet confidence that comes from spiritual alignment? This isn't about being perfect. It's about being real, being present, being awake. That's the kind of future Baba Vanga may have seen, one where, in the face of division, we remember who we are. So, are you ready to begin again from within? If this message touched something in you, leave a comment with just one word: awake. It's a small step, but it means you're ready to reconnect with yourself and with the deeper truth within. Let's start from there. Number 4. Prepare for climate shifts with practical wisdom. As climate shifts become more visible and undeniable, we are no longer living in a time when we can pretend that nature will adapt to us. The recent floods in the northern regions are not isolated events. They are a loud, unignorable message that the earth is changing, and it's doing so in ways that transcend politics, convenience, and personal schedules. Nature doesn't wait for our governments to come to consensus or for global summits to draft agreements. It acts, and so must we, not out of panic, but out of mindful responsibility. Whether your home is nestled in the hills, along a coastline, or in a quiet suburb, we all share this one planet, and the time has come to move from passive observation to compassionate action. This is not a call to live in fear, but a call to wake up, to rise with awareness, just as the Buddha encouraged us to awaken from ignorance into clarity. Climate change is not someone else's problem. It's here, it's now, and we are part of both the cause and the solution. So what does preparing with wisdom look like in everyday life? First, it begins with humility, acknowledging that human activity has contributed to environmental imbalance, and that no matter how small we may feel as individuals, our choices ripple out into the larger ecosystem. This humble recognition opens the door to action rooted not in blame, but in care. Begin with your immediate environment. Revisit your emergency preparedness plans, especially if you live in areas prone to floods, fires, or extreme weather. Check in with your family, your neighbors, and your local community to ensure that there are shared systems of support in place. In Buddhist teachings, Sangha, or community, is one of the 3 jewels. Lean into that. Real resilience is collective, not isolated. Next, look honestly at the habits in your daily life and begin to support sustainable choices, not as a trend, but as a moral compass. Shift towards reducing waste, conserving energy, and choosing products that are ethically made and environmentally friendly. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Small, consistent acts like cutting down on plastic, reusing household items, or supporting local farmers carry deep significance. These are offerings not just to the earth, but to future generations. They are acts of dana, or generosity, to the web of life that sustains us. In modern society, where convenience often overrides consciousness, these acts are powerful statements of intention. They say, "I care," and caring is a form of awakening. Beyond personal changes, let your voice be a seed for awareness in your community. Advocate for policies and practices that align with ecological harmony. Attend town meetings, write letters to local officials, or simply start conversations with those around you. Every voice counts. As we know from the teachings, even the smallest intention, when done with mindfulness, becomes the ground for great transformation. Don't underestimate the impact of planting these seeds in your own corner of the world. Preparing for climate shifts doesn't mean retreating in fear or hoarding in anxiety. It means stepping forward with open eyes and a steady heart. It means realizing that loving the earth is not sentimental, it's practical, spiritual, and essential. We are not separate from nature, we are part of it, as intimately connected as the breath in our lungs to the air around us. In this time of change, let us not wait for disaster to remind us of our interdependence. Let us choose now to act, rooted in the wisdom of compassion, guided by the clarity of responsibility, and inspired by the vision of harmony, for ourselves, for others, and for all beings who share this precious world. Number 5. Become a torchbearer in times of transformation. In every time of great change, the world quietly calls for torchbearers, those who don't just move with the tide, but become guiding lights for others to follow. And, contrary to what we often believe, being a leader doesn't mean standing on a stage or holding a title. True leadership begins with how you live your daily life. It starts in the small, sacred spaces, how you speak to your children, how you respond when you're tired or tested, how you treat someone who disagrees with you, and whether you choose kindness when it would be easier to lash out. Baba Vanga's visions weren't just mysterious predictions, they were awakenings, urging us not just to believe in a better world, but to embody it. What does it mean to be instead of just believe? It means living your values, even when no one is watching. It means being the one who remains centered when others are losing their way, who offers a steady hand in a shaky world. When you decide to be a torchbearer, you carry the flame of hope, compassion, and clarity in moments of darkness. You become the calm in the storm, the reason someone else finds their footing again. Baba Vanga's message is not about fear or waiting for someone else to take action. It's about realizing that you have the power to bring light wherever you are. Think about it. When was the last time you chose understanding over judgment or patience over frustration? These small decisions, repeated every day, form the quiet foundation of true leadership. In a time where so many are driven by fear or division, your courage to stand firm in peace becomes a revolution of its own. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be willing to show up with heart. Ask yourself, how can I be someone who brings clarity where there's confusion? What does it look like to lead with compassion in my everyday life? These aren't abstract questions. They're invitations to shift your awareness and start living with purpose. Baba Vanga's prophecies become powerful not because they predict fate, but because they invite us to co-create our future. Her call is simple yet profound. Be the light you're waiting for. When you embrace this role, even quietly, even in your own family or neighborhood, you begin to change not only your path, but the path of those around you. This is how legacies are made. Not with grand speeches, but with consistent love, patience, and integrity. So if you've been waiting for a sign to rise into your own strength, let this be it. Let the lesson here settle in your heart. The world doesn't need more noise, it needs more light. And that light is already inside you. Be someone who listens deeply, acts mindfully, and chooses unity even when it's hard. Be the reason someone else keeps going. Be the proof that peace is still possible. Because in a time of transformation, it's not titles or followers that matter. It's the courage to lead by example, even when no one sees it. The question now is, will you carry the torch? As we reflect on Baba Vanga's powerful warnings, remember, these aren't just predictions to fear, but invitations to awaken. Whether her visions unfold fully or not, they remind us to stay grounded, to stay aware, and to live with purpose in uncertain times. If this video has sparked something within you, whether a question, a realization, or simply a deeper curiosity, Don't let it fade. Let's continue this journey together. Like this video if it brought value to your day. Share it with someone you care about, someone who seeks deeper understanding in a changing world. Subscribe to the Journey of Wisdom and turn on notifications so you don't miss our upcoming explorations into ancient teachings, modern challenges, and timeless truths. This is more than a channel, it's a path. And together we walk it with open hearts and steady minds. Until next time, stay awake, stay kind, and carry the light.